contentment for those who are lonely. Let us give gratitude for our opportunity to serve Rotary. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, Sandra. So for visiting Rotarians and guests, Past President Dan Orr is on his way up, but I'd like to introduce some of our distinguished guests today. First of all, we have our District Governor, Chuck Prado, right over here coming. And I really appreciate him coming today. And then we have our Major Gift Officer for Rotary International, John Teich, right here. He's visiting today. And his father, that's right there under us, Teich, president. He's a longtime Rotarian, and he's president of his club in Michigan.
Oh, there you go. I walked all the way up here, and Luann got to introduce everybody. And just for the record, we greet our fellow Rotarians with, hi John, hi Andreas, hi Chuck, not clap. Now we get to clap. Do we have any guests of Rotarians? Chris.
Oh, wait. Hang on.
Doug's in the room.
Thank you very much. I'd like to introduce my special guest, Sarah Stillman. We've known each other for a long time. My daughter was a very good friend of hers. Sarah's currently in law school and was a former teacher at Christ Church. And you'll be hearing from her in a couple of weeks about the flower show, of which she is currently the head of the Coronado Floral Association.
Okay, get to run all the way back here again.
President Luann and fellow Rotarians, I'd like to introduce my wife, Katie. President Luann, fellow Rotarians and guests, I'd like to present our speaker today, Stephen Wisbridge of City Ballet, here instead of Jeff Gonzalez.
Hello, everyone. We have three guests today. There are three officers from our Coronado High School Interact. I have Kate Gregory, Sienna Pearson, and Katie Sullivan. So, very proud to have them.
All right, put a fork in this, we're done.
Well, no, I've got one more. My special guest, John Jacobson, over here. There's John. And thank you, Dan, for the lesson that we all got.
Yeah, always happy to help out.
All right. So as I always do, I announce our Red Badgers, just so everybody gets to know them. So let's start with Sarah Chevrington over here. I didn't see, is Jerry Brown here? I didn't see him here. Joe Malloy right here, tech guy. Arlene Inch right here. Let's see, Michelle Meek, I think she's here somewhere. She's almost ready to give her Who Am I. Ronnie Hosler right back there. And Hanadi Badassarian is back there. So as I say, always say hi to them and introduce yourself to them. Then as you notice, we always put a reserved spot at each table. That way someone that's new, and it could be either a Red Badger, or it could be someone that is new in our club in the last year and a half, they have a reserved spot at each table. So if they're sitting at that spot, please introduce yourself and get to know them. So next, let's have the announcements. We have a slide for that. Okay, the first one is tomorrow, February 9th. We'll have our February social. It's at Doug St. Dennis's home. It's from 5:30 to 7:30, 1504 Parkview Place, and that's off of Pomona. And please, as always, bring an adult beverage to share and an appetizer. And Doug will come up in a minute and tell us a little bit more. Then next we have beach cleanup this coming Saturday, February 11th. That is, and I believe it's 7:45, you meet at Isabella and Orange. And then at the same day and around the same time, we have the Delta Beach cleanup with the Navy and Emerald Keepers. And Marv Hines is going to come up in a little bit and tell us more about that. Next, we have Flags on the Avenue. That will be President's Day, which is Monday, February 20th. They meet at First and Orange at 7 a.m., and then the flags come down at 4 p.m. Golf tournament, and I think probably Pat or Bob is going to say something about that, Bob Rutherford. And that's Friday, March 31st. I know there'll be some volunteer opportunities as we get closer on that. And then the last thing is put on your calendar to reserve Saturday, April 29th for Rotarians at Work Day. All right. So for February, for Rotary International, it's Peace and Conflict Month. And next week, on the 15th, at CCYC, we have a special program. We have a really interesting speaker on that from, I think he's from UCSD. And we also are going to do the Peacemaker Award that is going to go to Limbs of Freedom, which we have a great, they're going to talk and going to tell us a little bit more about Limbs of Freedom. We're going to honor all the people that have been part of Limbs of Freedom for so long. So that's going to be extra special. Then Feed the Needy Committee is active. They're accepting volunteers. So they're going to Father Joe's to serve breakfast on April 12th and November 15th. So if you are interested, please see Bob Griffin. Next, we have Rotarians out and about. And if we can show the first slide. Okay, so there is our Rotary Chorale. They're practicing, and they're practicing on March 1st. We're going to celebrate our club's 97th birthday, so they're going to serenade us then. And then the next slide, I guess they're doing really well. If you want to join the chorale, please see Mary Taylor. She's in charge of that. And then the next slide, as we all do, we try to be environmentally friendly. We try to do our pickups around the island, and what's great, there's our member Jane New. And not only do we do it as a group, but a lot of our members go around and literally on their own pick up trash on the beach in town. So, it's one of those habits that you just have to get used to. And also, talking about habits environmentally friendly, as you see, I brought my cup again. So I'm asking everyone again, please, at the social tomorrow, bring your own glass. So we get away from the plastic cups, and that's saving the environment. If we have committee meetings, please bring your own cups so we don't have to use plastic anymore. Okay, so next, if Doug St. Dennis would like to come up, and she's going to tell us a little bit about tomorrow's social, because it's going to be fun. And I promise that we will not have any flaming cheese at this social. We don't have to call the fire department on this one. So.
Thank you, President Luann. Rotarians and guests, yes, come to my house tomorrow night, 1504 Parkview Place. Please bring your spouses, your significant others, and your special guests, and we can all get to know each other better. It's a great opportunity for fellowship, and it's always fun. And yes, bring a bottle of wine and something to share. And we're going to have a whiskey tasting, mostly because I have all these half-open bottles of stuff in my cabinet that I would never in my lifetime be able to drink. So if you have the same thing, bring it, and we'll share it. It'll be fun. So what else? You can park on the Adela Street Hill. I'm right off of Parkview Place, which is Pomona Park. But it's great to just park on the Adela Hill and then walk across the grass. So I told you what to share. We're not sharing your spouses, but please do bring. Did I do it? I say that because I introduced myself to Luann's husband at the last one. And he said, yes, we've met. I'm Luann's husband. I said, I need to see more of you, Tom. So, anyway, thanks.
I won't even go there with that one. All right. So next, if Marv Hines wants to come on up, he's going to talk about the Environmental Committee and about the Delta Beach cleanup.
Thank you, President Luann and fellow Rotarians. I wanted to recap a little bit about what the Committee to Protect the Environment did first part of the year and what we're going to do the last part of the Rotary year here. In the first part of the Rotary year, we did Swiss Park cleanup, we did a border trash tour, we did a District 5340 tree planting, and we did a number of cleanups at Tidelands and Strand. We're trying to add things beside cleanups to our committee, and so starting though, we're having a big cleanup this Saturday, just adding things other than cleanups now. And that's going to be at the Navy Delta Beach. That's the beach between Fiddler's Cove and the Amphib base. It's usually fenced off, so it's a chance to get on a piece of Navy property that you can't usually get on and help clean up a little bit. There is a lot of trash out there, so it'll be a busy morning, 8:30, park at Fiddler's Cove, and we'll walk over to the beach and we'll clean up there 8:30 to 11:30 on Saturday. Then looking at the last part of this Rotary year, we're going to have an online meeting on February 23rd, to talk about what we're going to do for the rest of the year. Amongst the things we have, other than some beach cleanups and trash pickups, is we're going to have a tree planting on March 11th, so mark your calendars for that morning. That's a Coronado Arbor Day tree planting that Rotary, we hope we will support. And we're going to look at some other things we can do, ideas of things to expand our Rotary effort in the environment beyond just picking up trash. If you want to know about it, look at the calendar. Every Committee to Protect the Environment event is posted on the Rotary calendar on the website. And if you really want to know about it, get signed up on the committee because you'll get an email and everything also. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. And it really is a great committee, so if you are interested in signing up or doing some of the events, please see Marv on that. So next we have our President-elect nominee, Pat Stark, to come on up and... Oh, he's going to do... Okay, then our President-elect, Bob Rutherford, come on up and you're going to talk about, I guess, the golf tournament?
It's a real quick announcement.
Okay.
Thank you, President Luann, fellow Rotarians and guests. This is a $50 bill, and I just want, who wants this right now? I'm going to give away a $50 bill in the form of a little tip for you for the golf tournament. Between now and February 28th, if you sign up, you get $50 off. So the registration fee is $250 right now, and after the 28th of February, that would be the 1st of March, it goes up to 3 bills. So you can take home U.S. grant just by not procrastinating for the next 20 days. And I want to tell you something else on that, and we've already got a third of our sign-ups. So we're only going to take 144, and we've already got a third of those registered and filled right now. So they're going fast. U.S. grants waiting for you. Thank you, President.
Thank you, Bob. And then too, I think as we get closer, there will be volunteer opportunities for the fundraiser to be able to do that. So now we'll go again with Pat Stark, our President-elect nominee, and he has some words of wisdom, and I can tell you, I know we're going to hear about the Chiefs again, but that tally is just going and going and going. So.
Thank you, President Luann, for mentioning the team that I'm not going to mention. Maybe you can pay the fine. I think that's great. We're here today to do honor to some of our co-members who have achieved a notable level of sacrifice in our club. And I'm always reminded when I do these presentations about people who make sacrifices, about the minister who got sent to a failing church in a little town way down south. I know, Tom, you'll understand this story. But this church was just dead, and this minister got up on his first day, and he started preaching, and he was bringing fire and brimstone. And he got to the crux of his sermon, and he said, folks, he says, this church is dead, and it's got to get up off the ground, and it's got to crawl. Pretty soon the congregation yelled, let it crawl, Reverend, let it crawl. And he said, after this church crawls, it's going to have to get up on its feet and walk. And everybody yelled out, let it walk, Reverend, let it walk. And then he said, after the church walks, it's going to run and sprint like the wind. And their church broke out, let it run, Reverend, let it run. And he said, and in order for this church to run, it's going to take a lot of money. And it got real quiet, and a voice in the back of the church said, let it crawl, Reverend, let it crawl. And that's a funny story, but you know, all of us get called. I mean, you all are here because you have a calling to be a part of something bigger than yourself. We all get called, and then some of us step up beyond being called. And that's what we're here to honor today, is the people who have decided that service is that critical that they want to step up. And I want to talk about service for just a minute, because we don't talk about this enough, but it is a fundamental fiber of who we are as individuals and who this club is. Last week we heard a great presentation by our mayor about mountain climbing, and I reflected upon that presentation about man versus mountain and doing it because it's there, but honestly I was reminded of a story that I heard while in Central America years ago by a fellow. We all have our stories about how we came to service, but this was his story. He had been, he was a mountain climber. He and his best friend had climbed every major peak in the world, except it's Andalusia, which is the highest mountain in South America. And he and his best friend climbed Andalusia, and near the top, his best friend fell and died. Now, they didn't have a guide. You heard the speech last week about if you go by yourself, nobody helps you. And he wandered out of the mountains by himself into the plains of Patagonia in Argentina, where he found a hut that was occupied by a gaucho, an Argentinian cowboy. What I remember about him telling in this story as we were sitting around the campfire is that that gaucho's hut smelled so bad his pet skunk would not come inside. But that gaucho nursed him back to well-being, if you will. And as he got ready to leave, he looked at him and he said, you need to remember something. There is nowhere to go. There is nothing to do except to be of service. You came to the mountain, but you didn't go anywhere. You tried to climb it, but you didn't do that. And all there was for me to be of service to you. So he was telling me that story. He was our guide on a whitewater rafting trip in Honduras, and he was working his way back to the United States, where he wanted to bring that message to people. And coincidentally, about 6 years later at a Chamber of Commerce meeting in Kansas City, Missouri, who shows up but the same guy to tell that story, to preach to people about how important service is to business. But you and I all know that service isn't just important to business, it's a way of life. Yourself is too small a purpose for your life. What you do for yourself dies with you. What you do for others lives long after you've passed. So remember how important service is. There isn't anything that's more important. It is what we do. We raise children, we are being of service to them. We join the Rotary Club, we're being service to our community. We join the military, and thank all of you for that, because we want to be of service to our country. Service is what life is all about. So today, I want to honor some people who, when called, stepped up. When asked to run, said, "We'll make Rotary run," and didn't want to let it crawl. District Governor Chuck, could you come join me while we read these names out for these winners of our Paul Harris Awards? So, when your name's called, I'm going to ask you to stand. Hold your applause, if you will, please, till the end. At the end of the program, we're going to meet in the back and have a picture taken with our district governor, so that we can celebrate this moment. So, our winners, or our awardees today, with one Paul Harris Fellow, are Jamie B., Ann Stocksdale, and Carmen Velazquez. Please stand. Remain standing, if you would, please. With two Paul Harris Fellows, Sherry Calhoun, Sharon Rafer. With three, Carol McClellan and Jill Owen. With four, Marvin Heitz and Meredith Heineke. Five, Chris Keys. 6, Cliff B., John Duncan, Don Panic, Zayanne Thompson, and Chris Grant. A couple of them couldn't be here. 7, Janice Lowenberg. And 9, Terry Farley, Pat Flynn, Arlene Inch, and our very own Luann Miller. Please give them a round of applause. Would you like to say something?
Sure, thank you very much. Mark called you to service. I want to thank you for your money. Thank you so very much. It really is the foundation upon how we build all the projects. So without your gift, none of what Rotary does is possible. So I want to thank each and every one of you for your continued commitment to Rotary through your Paul Harris Fellowship. Thank you so very much.
Please be seated. We have one more award to present. I've asked our major donor chairman to come up, John Teich. John is going to make a presentation to a very special person today for achieving major donor status. John?
Good afternoon, everybody. It's my pleasure to be with you here today, and it's a special privilege to be able to recognize someone for going above and beyond what they're giving to the foundation. You know, everybody here today, I'm grateful for all of your contributions and your support of the foundation, because as Chuck said, your dollars are the dollars that fuel the fire that Rotary is able to do, both in your local community and around the world. And without your dollars to support the foundation, Rotarians wouldn't be able to provide clean water to those needed, to help provide peace and conflict resolution where it's most needed. These dollars are the ones that make the impact. And so today, I am pleased to recognize Arlene Inch for her contributions. And recognize her as Major Donor Level 1 for her outstanding giving to the foundation. Arlene, would you come forward and accept your award?
As well.
Arlene, would you like to say anything?
Oh, thank you. And I'm more to come.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I can't think of a better way to send everybody off and thank them for their service, for their Paul Harris Awards. Very special. So next, I would like to bring up Ray Coronado to introduce our speaker for today. And then I just want to say too that after this, all those that got awards, they're going to pass those out to you. And then if you would just stay around, we're going to take a picture afterwards.
Pat Stark, in your honor, I'm going to make an unusual introduction for our speaker today and go with the pro football theme. We have the Super Bowl coming up in just 4 days, and everybody here, I'm sure, is going to be tuned in, watching it on TV and enjoying it. And that's something we can all do, right? It's exciting to watch pro football on television. But when it comes to the performing arts, my position is that you need to see that in the theater. You need to be there to experience it with the rest of the audience, the joy, the artistry, and everything else about it. And more on that subject with pro football is when I was a kid, I remember being in LA, hearing that Rosie Greer and other football players took ballet. Unbelievable to me. And in fact, today I Googled it, and if you do this, the same thing. You can Google pro football players and ballet, and there is a wealth of information. They're all taking it, they're all learning it, because this is truly an art form that requires incredible artistry and athleticism and stamina and balance and everything the football players want to have as well. So I think we are surviving as the 8th largest city in the country without a pro football team now, because we can watch everybody on TV. But God help us if we ever lose our performing arts, and more than any, City Ballet of San Diego. It's truly special. Today, we are honored to have the founder of City Ballet, along with his wife, Elizabeth Wistrich. This is Stephen Wistrich. 30 years ago, they founded the company, and it's thriving. Stephen's son-in-law, Jeffrey Gonzalez, was supposed to be here today, but something came up that's pretty exciting for him. So we were lucky to get Stephen back here. He was here 6 years ago. And his credentials are incredible. He's danced, he's been an artistic director, he's taught all over. It was Boston, New York, all through Europe. And if you know the name George Balanchine, who's the biggest name ever in the United States, he personally coached Stephen Wistrich in leading roles. So it is truly an honor for me to present Stephen Wistrich today, on very short notice, mind you, who's going to be able here to talk about City Ballet. One final thing, I want to let you know in the 6 years that have gone by since Stephen spoke to us, there's a big Coronado connection. Many of you and many other residents of Coronado have gone to see City Ballet, become donors and patrons. Also, 2 board members from City Ballet, from Coronado for City Ballet, including yours truly, and a friend named Rita Steele, both of us from Coronado. Also, the gala that's held every year is right here at the hotel, or it has been. I can't say what the future will hold. But for many years now, the gala, which is spectacular, and a number of you have gone to the gala, is really something fantastic right here, either in the Crown Room or in the ballroom. And finally, Jeff Gonzalez, who's going to be here, I introduced him to our Rotarian comrade who's not here today, Alan Kinzel, and they become good friends. And as you might know, Alan Kinzel puts on Coronado's talent. And twice now, Jeff Gonzalez has arranged for performances by City Ballet to break up the amateur hour and show what a true professional performance could be. So with all of that, I would like to now bring up to the stage and have all of you give a big Coronado Rotary warm welcome to Stephen Wistrich.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Ray, for that wonderful introduction. I feel very honored to be speaking before you today and to have the opportunity to tell you about my journey and about the City Ballet of San Diego. And I have great respect for the Rotarians and all that you do for San Diego, and it's really an honor to be here today. So I thought that, it might be interesting for you to hear how I arrived at my position of the founding director of the City Ballet of San Diego. I never imagined that I'd be standing here before you as a young dancer so many years ago, and it's just so amazing where life takes us. I was talking with one of your Rotarians a little earlier today, and we were talking about how many of us just kind of go with the flow of life. And for me, my journey actually began as a child, I would say, because I was always told that when I heard music, I would just start to move just naturally. And so I was very drawn to music, and whenever I would hear it, I would just kind of naturally move to it. And then, in my generation, we were watching TV shows. This is really going to date me, but we were watching TV shows like the Ed Sullivan Show and the Perry Como Show. And the Perry Como Show had a choreographer named Peter Gennaro, who regularly performed on the program with his dancers, the Peter Gennaro dancers. And when I saw that, it just fired up something in me. I just thought they were amazing. And I would dance along with them in my living room whenever they came on. And then when I was 13, two of my cousins, as a gift, brought me to New York, and I saw my first Broadway plays, musicals. And when I saw the dancers come out, and they would look like they were having the most wonderful time, I just thought, that's what I want to do. So I made my decision, I'm going to be a dancer. At a very young age, I was 13 years old. So when I got back to Boston, I was born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts, and I told my mother and my father, I said, I really want to be a dancer. I think I want to dance on Broadway. And it was not well received. That's the only way I can put it. I was the oldest of four brothers, and they were, for me, they were thinking of a traditional, go to college, become a doctor, become a lawyer, something more traditional, and that wasn't in my path. So I finally, they gave me a very hard time, and I remember saying to my mother, I just think I have the wrong parents. And with that, she opened the phone book and found a jazz school that taught jazz dancing, because I wanted to be on Broadway at that time in my life. And I remember she called the school and made an appointment, and on a Saturday, she brought me to this dance studio in Boston. And I distinctly remember coming up the stairs and hearing the sound of bongo drums. And when I went into I got up the stairs and I went into this school, I found a black man with a bongo drum teaching a jazz class to quite a number of students. And he just sort of gestured to me and like, come on and join us. So I did. I just jumped in. I had never had a dance class before. And I just jumped in, and I remember feeling how exhilarated I felt, how amazing it was. And after the class was over, he came over to me and said, gee, you're pretty good for, a beginner. And he said, what would you like to do? And I said, well, I would love to dance on Broadway. That's my goal. And he said, well, he said, those dancers that you see on television, the really good ones, they've all had ballet training. And that was, I did not expect that. I didn't know that. I knew nothing about dance really at that point. And he said, you're going to have to really train in ballet if you're going to be on Broadway. So he told us the name of the best ballet school in Boston. It was the Boston School of Ballet, the home of the Boston Ballet, which is now one of the top 5 companies in the United States. And so we made an appointment, and I went over there for an audition. And the woman that became my teacher, took me into the studio just by ourselves, and she, was looking at my body to see if I was the right body type, and it turned out that I was. I had long legs and all the things that you kind of look for in a ballet dancer, I guess, at that time. And she offered me a full scholarship right on the spot. And I was amazed, and I started off with beginning ballet classes, and I had no idea what I was doing. And quite frankly, when I heard I had to take ballet, it really was not something that I was terribly excited about. In fact, I remember when I was a younger child, sometimes would even turn the station if it would come on TV. I just wasn't interested, quite honestly. So then I started studying ballet, and I found it very, very, very difficult and very challenging, and it was very frustrating at first. But my teacher kept encouraging me, stay with it, you'll get through this, and you'll be a good dancer someday. So I did, and eventually, long story short, it seemed like people were very excited to see me dance and thought I had a lot of potential, so I changed my mind and I decided to pursue ballet as a career. And it was really a good choice for me. I never did get to dance on Broadway. Lincoln Center at the Metropolitan Opera House, but never on Broadway, unfortunately, so I never achieved that dream. But I did end up having a very remarkable, wonderful career in ballet. And right out of high school, I was hired by the Boston Ballet. I met my wife, Betsy, through the Boston Ballet. She was a dancer there, and I met her there. And after I graduated high school, I started dancing with them. And a few years later, we decided to go to Europe. I wanted to have an opportunity to dance, internationally. And I went to an audition. Actually, it was my first audition in New York for the Netherlands Dance Theater. They're based in The Hague, and they're a very famous contemporary dance company. And I went there, and I found myself with 299 other male dancers. There were literally 300 of us auditioning for just a few places in the company. They were performing in New York at that time. And I didn't think anything would come of it. And I was asked to come back the second day. They had callbacks. And I ended up being one of 3 dancers that they chose to dance in the company, which was quite amazing and was a huge surprise. And I ended up going to Europe with my wife. And that was the start of my journey in Europe. And so I danced there, and then I got to dance the next year. A couple of years later, I was in Oslo, Norway, dancing at the Royal Norwegian Ballet Company there. I went to the Stuttgart Ballet in Germany, and I got to work with internationally famous dancers and toured all over the world with them. We came to the Metropolitan Opera House in New York, and we went to Russia and Israel and all over Western Europe. And so it was, I didn't get to go to college because by that age I was already a professional dancer, but I felt like I sort of got my education on the road, so to speak, through my travels and meeting all the different people of different cultures that I got to come in contact with. So that's, so I kept dancing, and then when it was time to retire, I realized that, so many people had invested so much of themselves in my training and my development as a dancer, and I realized that if I stopped, all of that would just go nowhere. It would just, as you mentioned, sir, that you were talking about how unless you play it forward, that it dies with you when you go. And I didn't want that to happen, so I decided to teach, and I decided to pass on what I know to others, and it was a great decision. And long story short, I ended up opening a school here in San Diego in 1992. We're now in our 30th year, and with the idea of starting a professional world-class ballet company here. And it's been an incredible journey, I can only tell you. Starting something from scratch like that and becoming a nonprofit ballet company, I got to San Diego and I saw how there was a very flourishing art scene here. There was, of course, the San Diego Opera, the San Diego Symphony, the Old Globe, the La Jolla Playhouse. There was amazing theater. And I thought, well, there needs to be a world-class ballet company here, and I felt qualified to, with my background, to make the effort to try. And 30 years later, we have the most beautiful, wonderful ballet company. I know several of you have been to see us, and I thank you very much for supporting us and for coming to our galas, and that's all due to Ray Carno. He's been the biggest. He's been one of our biggest cheerleaders and ambassadors, so it's been such a joy working with him. And so now we have this great ballet company, and we're now in our 30th season. Our dancers come from all over the world, They have to audition through a 3-week process that we have a summer intensive every summer, and they have to come and work with us for 3 weeks before we choose them to come into our company. And they're just remarkable. Ballet dancers live very disciplined lives because the work is so intense. It's kind of like preparing for the Olympics, like every day, like all year round, the whole time you dance, because you have to be in such remarkable shape and conditioning, and as Ray was talking about, the stamina that you need, and just the physical strength, the men lifting the women into these amazing, it's become very athletic. And so many people, unfortunately, in the United States have a really unfortunate view of what ballet is. And I just love when people come to see the ballet for the first time and they're so surprised. They're thinking, oh, it's a bunch of girls running around in pink tutus and, you know, sissy guys and so forth and so on. And when they get there, they realize that they're watching world-class athletes at their, human beings at their very best and best physical condition that you can be in. And they're very, very pleasantly surprised and usually come back because they're so turned on by it. And the ballets that we dance, we try to find ballets that will appeal to all different parts of the population. Some people, like we do the Nutcracker every year, the famous Nutcracker ballet, and some people only will come to see the Nutcracker because it's a holiday event and they love, it's a tradition and they love to see the Nutcracker. But then we do serious, we do really serious work, and we work with world-class choreographers. And Ray mentioned that early on I had the opportunity in one of the companies I danced in Geneva, Switzerland, to work with the great George Balanchine, who is considered to be the father of modern ballet. And I was a principal dancer there, so I got to actually work with him. And he is the founding director of the New York City Ballet. And so one of the first things that I wanted to do when I developed our company was to have Balanchine's ballets performed here in San Diego. And I had to go through the George Balanchine Trust. Mr. Balanchine passed away in 1983, but they're the caretakers of his ballets. And so we now have, all these years later, we now have 22 Balanchine ballets that we've presented here in San Diego for all of San Diego to enjoy. And we continue to do them every single season as part of our repertory. So we do that. My wife is a choreographer. She's brilliant. She does incredible ballets. My son-in-law, Jeff Gonzalez, he's married to my beautiful daughter, Ariana Gonzalez, who is one of our principal dancers. My whole family is just so incredible. I feel like I'm the least talented out of all of them. They're so incredibly talented, and I get to work and see them every day. So that's been wonderful too. So our whole family is involved with it, and we're now in our 30th season, and we have definitely faced our challenges through the years. And it's never easy when you're starting something from scratch to get support and to get enthusiasm from people and to get the word out and to have people come and support what you do. It takes an awful lot. And one of the first things we did, of course, was to develop a board of directors, which Ray has been a member for several years. And it's just been, I've learned so much. I'm relatively a shy person, so I had to learn how to be more outgoing so that I could turn people on to what we do and go out and reach out to them. That was very challenging for me because I think many ballet dancers or dancers in general are so used to communicating silently, through their bodies, and you don't have to speak. Nobody has to get up like this and give a speech like this when you're a dancer, So it was something I had to become accustomed to and feel more comfortable about to turn people on about it. So I've learned an awful lot, and I've gotten to meet a lot of wonderful, amazing people through this journey. And we have performances that are coming up that so we put some information on each of your tables. And you'll find flyers there, and we have a special flyer for all of you Rotarians who, if you go onto our website and just type in what you're asked, a little code there, you'll get a big discount on your tickets. So I think one of our biggest challenges came when COVID hit us. And we had just performed, that was in March of 22, and we had just performed at the Spreckles Theater, which is where we've always been in residence. And luckily, we were dancing a program of all George Balanchine's ballets. And everything got closed down. We finished on Sunday, and everything closed down on Monday. So we just squeezed by, because we had put so much work into that program, and we almost missed the opportunity to perform it. So what we did, and then we thought, oh my gosh, what are we going to do now? Everything's closed down. We didn't want to let our dancers down because they were in the best shape of their lives after dancing Balanchine's ballets. And we just, we met, we kept meeting on Zoom, our staff kept meeting on Zoom, and we thought, well, what about if we just do everything virtually? So that's what we ended up doing. We ended up very, very slowly and carefully. Jeff Gonzalez was so clever. He decided that he would film the ballets virtually and send them out, and then and see what kind of a response we got. So he would invite, at the very beginning of the pandemic, when we were all scared to death to be anywhere near anybody, he turned our studio into a black box theater. And he invited one dancer at a time that wore a mask, and he taught them the choreography, and then he would film them. And he would do this simultaneously with different dancers. And when he put it all together, it looked like there were a whole bunch of dancers dancing together. And at the filming, they took their mask off, so it looked like they were normally just dancing. And it started with that. And we sent it out, and we got the most remarkable response from all over the world. It went on the internet, and we heard from people as far away as Russia and India, and they said, keep doing this is amazing, we're loving this ballet. So we started, as things progressed, then we started rehearsing with the dancers in our studios again. And we had everybody wearing masks. They were all tested for COVID every week to keep everybody safe. And we managed to keep our company employed and going. And instead of performing in a live theater, we filmed everything that we did. We went into a theater with no audience and nothing. And we had our dancers hold the cameras. We had 2 cameramen. And we actually found very interesting techniques of filming dance, because they were right up close to the dancers, and you could almost hear them breathing, and you could see bobby pins in their hair, and people loved it. It was such an intimate, usually you're watching ballet in a theater, the dancers are a ways from you, there's a separation, and it's dark. So this was, another way of looking at ballet, and people loved it. So we did a lot of fundraising during that time. We did our first virtual gala. We had to learn how to do all these things. And we did very well, in our fundraising. We were actually able to keep our dancers employed all during that time, so they never had to stop. And then eventually we were able to go back into the studio. We even had our school, we have the City Ballet School in San Diego, which is our family business, and we've been, again, in Pacific Beach for 30 years, and we even did our classes on Zoom. So all of our dance students were able to continue their training, and that was great too. So here we are in the middle of our 30th season, and our next performances are March 17th through the 19th at the Conrad Theater in La Jolla, and this is going to be our second appearance there. So we're doing, the repertory for this program is really interesting. It's almost hard to describe because it's not like a story ballet. Sometimes we do story ballets like Swan Lake or Giselle or The Sleeping Beauty, and they're much easier to describe, or even the Balanchine ballets sometimes have stories. But these works, we call them contemporary ballets, and they're just strictly an interpretation of the music that the choreographer will interpret. And we have 2 ballets on the program by my wife, Betsy, and then we have one by Jeff Gonzalez. And they're all completely different from each other. They're incredibly different. And if 10 people came and saw the ballets, they would all have a different interpretation of what they saw. So there's no, you come and watch it, and it's however it strikes you. And you don't have to know anything about ballet, you don't have to know anything about dance, to actually enjoy these kinds of ballets, or any ballet for that matter. But one of the ballets we're doing on our program is called Batu, and that's by Jeff Gonzalez, and he had choreographed a previous version of this a few years ago. And the music is just percussion, it's just drums. It's actually played live. We have the percussionist on stage with the dancers. And the last time we did it was so successful that when Jeff wanted to recreate it, he decided to do a whole different version and a whole different score. So the percussionist composed a whole different score for it, which is very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. And he made the ballet larger and longer, so there are more dancers this time, and it's a very, very exciting ballet. My wife has 2 ballets. One is called Straw Feet. That also has an original score that was composed for this ballet years ago. And it's been one of her most successful contemporary ballets. It's very, very athletic, has very unusual partnering, lifting, and the dancing is quite exciting. And then the 3rd ballet is called Beyond the Circle, which is also her ballet. And that focuses more on 4 couples and the different dynamics of their relationship, so it has a little bit of drama to it. And it's kind of more of a moody ballet. So that's that program that we hope to entice all of you to come and see. And then we're going to be closing our season up in Escondido at the California Center for the Arts with my wife's version. It's a 3-act version of Romeo and Juliet. And it's a very spectacular production. It has, incredibly opulent scenery, costumes. We've also developed our own orchestra, the City Ballet Orchestra. So they will be playing, and they play for the Nutcracker as well, which we did up in Escondido. So please come and see Romeo and Juliet. If you've never seen that as a ballet, it makes a great ballet. It's very, very dramatic and colorful. There's sword fighting, and people get killed, and so forth and so on. It's really a great, very dramatic story, and it's a fun ballet to watch until the end. So we all know how that ends. So I think at this time I brought a few videos of our company, some very short videos, so that, I think a picture is where I can stand here and tell you how wonderful we are, but I think if you take a look at some of the videos, so we're going to show you a 1-minute video. We call it City Ballet on Stage, which shows a kind of a compilation of different very short clips of some of the ballets we've performed here in San Diego over the past. And then there's going to be another couple of short clips of the program that we're presenting in March. So if we're ready to show the clips, let's do that. That's my daughter. Did you like it? See, it might be not what you expected. So hopefully that will entice you to check out ballet, So let's show the other clips, Ray, and...
1 second. Take a minute to load.
Okay.
Okay, we're just about ready. Go ahead and move the box. And the lights, please. Lights. Lights again.
This is the Batu ballet I told you about by Jeff Gonzalez. Normally it has it has percussion music. And this is my wife's ballet, Strong Feet. thank you. Well, I hope you'll come and see the performances, and I know you'll enjoy them very much. And I guess at this time I would ask if anybody has any questions that they'd like to ask me. I'm happy to answer. Yes, yes, yes.
Stephanie over there.
So you mentioned that you needed to retire from ballet. At what age does that happen?
You know, it really is very individual. I was about 40 when because you don't want to dance when you're not good anymore. And it becomes painful. It depends on a lot. It has to do with injuries. I had 2 surgeries during the time that I danced that slowed me down for a while until I could get back. And so every dancer has their own journey, and with me, I was about 40 years old when I stopped, yeah. Yes?
Is there an expectation in the business of ballet to retire yourself, or do they sort of, is there any kind of prejudice against people that are trying to continue to dance beyond their pain?
You know, I think most dancers know when it's their time. As I mentioned, nobody wants to dance when they know they're not looking their best anymore. And usually it's a combined decision between the artistic director and the dancer. And sometimes it's nice when the dancer will give warning and say, you know, I think this is going to be my last season dancing with the company. And then we try to do something special for them and feature them, you know, to pay honor and tribute to them for their careers and what they've contributed to the company. Yeah. You know, one thing I forgot to mention is that we also have a very extensive education program that I'm very proud of. We go into the schools, talking about paying things back. We go into the schools and we provide free training for 2nd graders. We have about 90 of them. We start in September, and every week we go into the schools and give them free ballet classes. We give them their shoes, their leotards and tights. We raise money for that, we fund that. And we feel that, you know, those children could be our audiences of the future, and they learn to love ballet at a very young age. So there are no preconceptions for them then. So we're very proud of our education programs too. Yeah.
I want to thank Stephen. That was amazing. Next week we're at CCYC. We're going to have, it'll be National Conflict Resolution Center. Steve Dinkin is speaking. He's world renowned, so we're lucky to have him speak. And again, we're going to have our Peacemaker Award, Limbs of Freedom, and we'll be talking more about that. So everybody, if you stay, if you got a Paul Harris, if you please stay, you get your pin, and then stay for a photo. So everyone go out and have an amazing Rotary Week.